I just returned from a different continent. We can try the same person who helped Roshan, Indu said. By the end of the evening, Rajat had promised to help Indu, but not without asking her to forget about all this madness afterwards, saying that they must go get away as far from all of this as quickly as possible. We will move to London permanently, Indus, and I swear you will love it, he said, his eyes earnest. There are so many bookshops there and libraries. You like libraries, right? The National Library is so huge. You can spend your days there, especially the rainy days, which is every day, really, and read as much as you want. And have you seen number 7 yet? She asked him, and he shook his head. But this library would still be very limited, right? He went on. You can find all the books of the world in the National Library there. Yet, but Indu said, cutting him off. Do you want to see it? I can show you. He nodded and Indu smiled. Don't worry, once we get him out, for that will be the last of it. We can then focus on the wedding. Rajat beamed. Ah, I had forgotten your braids in the picture, Rana said, chortling, shamelessly as he gazed at Indu's camping picture on at yet another hoarding they could see from where they were standing. How many marriages proposals did you get because of this picture again? In a swift movement, Indu threw the water bottle as he had brought along straight at Rana's head. He dodged and caught it, used to assault. How many times have I told you not to aim for my face? It could take out my eye. I only aim for your face so you can see it clearly and dodge it. Indu said suddenly unsure. Yeah, but you are getting better at it. How many times have I told you not to comment on this picture? But you look so cute in the mini braids and the red ribbons, he said, laughing. She was about to retort but held back, refusing to give in to his flattery. Indu knew he had been trying to play caught to her for the past few days, hoping that she would not see through it, but only an idiot would not see through it. She tried to keep the joking to a minimum. It was hard though, because he found something to joke about even when his best friend's life was under threat. They were waiting outside the address Rajat had given Indu, waiting to see the mysterious Dhar uncle. She knew that Rana was indulging in more nonsense than usual because he was even more nervous than her. Rajat had told her that Dhar uncle was known to make trouble disappear, but what made Indu really uncomfortable was that Rajat's brother would also be coming along, and she had told Rana as much. She remembered how he kept checking Indu's reaction to what Rajat said when they had dinner the first time together. What's his brother name? Rana had asked her. Roshan. Don't worry, Rana said. I mean, but he is only going to be your brother in law, right? You only have to see him at the most important moments of your life. She threw him a dirty look and he muttered an apology. A few minutes later, a Fiat arrived and Indu straightened up, sending silent encouragement to Rana. She clutched to the end of her sari and looked over to find that Rana and his hands in his pockets. Rajat was dressed in his usual shirt and trousers, while Roshan had his shirt untucked and wore sunglasses. From afar, he looked less menacing, but when they came closer, Indu's heart beat faster. She stepped forward to give Rajat a hug and nodded at Roshan, giving him a little smile. He smiled back widely in return. Both brothers gazed at Rana without any sign of greeting, and Indu cleared her throat loudly, introducing them. They stared at each other without saying anything. Shall we go in then? Rajat nodded and Roshan led the way. Indur walked in step with Rana. In the garden, they saw that Dhar uncle was already seated in the shade. When they walked in, he got up and folded his hands in a namaste, ordering tea for them. He was towering personality, taller than most men, dressed sharply in trousers and a blazer. He had a full head of white hair and sharp eyes. He bowed to Indu and shook hands with the man. It was an odd scene. Rana was seated on the one side of her and on the other side Rajat. Roshan sat next to Dhar uncle, his legs stretched out in front of him and his arms folded, staring at her unblinkingly. Indu decided to begin the conversation. She introduced herself, and when Dhar uncle gave her a smile, she felt encouraged to continue. She introduced Rana, telling Dhar uncle about his excellent work in the magazine. She introduced Rana, telling Dhar uncle about his excellent work in the magazine, his work as a lawyer, and how he helped her build up number 7. Rana did nothing but nod, as she wanted to nudge him into making one of his stupid jokes to lighten the mood, but he did nothing of the sort. She told them about Fawad, feeling nervous as she recounted what had happened, the one thought that had plagued her that Dhar uncle or Rajat and Roshan for that moment had no reason to get Fawad released made her voice shaky. Dhar uncle gave a heavy sigh when Indu finished and stared towards the sky, apparently deep in thought. Thanks to Roshan, he was saved the trouble of replying. This man, Fawad, he is in jail, Roshan asked. Indu nodded. There are so many in jail. Indu's heart sank. She knew it would come to this. She looked at Rana and saw the veins on his arm move as he clenched his hands. And we are sorry for them all, Indu said, but he is the one we want out. If there was a way, I would gladly help all those who have been imprisoned incorrectly, but I don't, which is why I have come to you. Why do you care about him so much? Roshan asked, adding Indu Bhavi. Indu narrowed her eyes at him. He is my friend. You have interesting friends, he said, gazing at Rana. Roshan, Rajat said, a hint of warning in his voice. Indu shot Rajat a look of anger. She had not walked in here to be insulted and blamed Rajat for involving his brother. If he could not help her, he should have just said so instead of making his joke of a brother consider her intentions. What I mean is, Roshan said, putting his hands up, how can rules be banned for one person? Listen, Mr. Indu replied. The rules have already been banned, and they have been banned especially for you. Everything that has happening during the emergency, the arrest, the family planning programs, all of that is illegal. If one man's life can be saved by an extra effort, it's important to us that we do all that is in our power. Roshan smiled widely. Does your father believe all this illegal as well? We will keep fathers out of this, Rajat said. Looking from Indu to Dhar uncle, Indu was fuming. I think what Roshan means is, Dhar uncle said, in this time, arrests have been made for a reason. To get someone released will involve bribing all sort of bureaucrats, threats, warning, jeopardizing the reputation and position for everyone involved, right from the person who unblocked this man's door to me, Rajat, and even you. I see no reason why such a risk must be taken. Indu stared blankly at them. Wasn't it obvious? Because she was asking them to. She could not believe that he was actually asking her what they were to gain by helping them let fall off. Perhaps her father was right. Perhaps there was no point in getting yourself involved. Maybe she should just move to London with Rajat, taking him as far as she could from his monster of a brother. What will be gained? She asked him. If even one innocent person's life can be saved in all this, would not you consider that a gain? Roshan shrugged and then yawned pointedly. Indu looked at Rana, who was now bent forward, propping his elbows on the table in front of him. Well, what if you had no choice? Dhar uncle looked quizzically at him and asked, what do you mean? What if you didn't have a choice about whether to help him get out or not? Roshan bent forward as well. And why would not he have a choice? You would not threaten him in his own house. Rana shrugged and Indu tried not to look completely clueless. She had no idea what he was talking about. Rana sat back again, now in the same posture as Roshan. Fawad wrote anti-government rhetoric that was declared illegal, took part in protest march and joined in a resistance movement seeking to destabilize this emergency. I wonder why he got arrested, Roshan said sarcastically. You really think he did not document all that he was doing, or that he embarked on all this without having conclusive proof of what he found? What do you mean? Rajat asked. Fawad had a stake of photographs that documented the government's mishandling of things, deaths of people. He planned to release the photographs to the BBC. That's why he came to Delhi and was arrested before that could happen. The photographs, however, are still with us. In the thought that Dhar uncle was either a good actor or was genuine unfazed by what Rana said. Indu heard Rajat's breath catch, while Roshan just raised his eyebrow. Sound like an empty threat, Roshan said. Rana shrugged. As you wish, maybe you have not realized this, but I am in no position to make empty threats. All I am doing is playing the last hand left to me. I have no other resort left except to barter these photographs for my friend's life. It's simply empty. As I see it, Dhar uncle said, first of all, we cannot be sure that these photographs even exist. If they do, what do they show? And whatever it is that they reveal, how does that affect us? If some photographs do come out in the BBC at some point, I hardly feel responsible for them. Indu could not help but think he was right. Rana bent forward again and looked straight into his eyes. Are you sure about that? How will the other member feel about the fact that you could have prevented this leak? That you had the golden chance of these photographs never seeing the light of the day, but you just did not. I am not lick- liking liking your tone. I am not liking your tone in this conversation, Rosen said. Or maybe, Rana went on, ignoring Rosen. These photographs came out are widely condemned, and the Congress is suddenly under the security of the world media. Its top member under investigation of their involvement in what could potentially be crimes against humanity itself. Then what? Will you still be minding my tone? Indu cotton. Dhar uncle. You ask me why you must put yourself at risk to get someone out of prison, she said. Well, this is what's at stake. This is what you would be averting. She could see from the corner of her eyes that Rajat was staring at her, maybe in disbelief, but she ignored it and instead kept looking directly at Dhar uncle with occasional glance at Roshan. At long last, Dhar uncle spoke, and he looked only at Rana when he did. You threatened me, he said finally. You came to my house under the pretense of seeking help, but it was actually with the intention of blackmail. You said you would help us, and now that we are here, you have started evaluating profit. Why would he not? Roshan spoke up. Who are you with him? Who is she to us? Indu glanced sideways as Rajat when Roshan said that. His expression remained unchanged. I am sorry, but it's my last hand, Rana said. If Fawad is let out, we will turn the photographs over to you. If he is not, well, I can't promise anything. A long silence followed, punctuated only by the dirty looks Roshan threw at Indu. Very well, the her uncle said. We will need to see the photograph first. I'll need the time to get things arranged. Once it's done, I will give Indu a call. Then we make the barter. Rana clapped his hands, getting up from his chair. Then there is nothing more to bicker about, Roshan. Shall we have another cup of tea? Roshan gave Rana a dirty look and walked away, followed by Rajat, who left without saying goodbye. What? Rana asked Indu, turning to her. What did I say? On the way back, Indu and Rana talked about all that had happened as Indu replied, their meeting over and over in her head, thinking about the wounded look Rajat gave Indu, Roshan's insinuating questions full of suspicious, and his remark, who is she to us? She knew that it was not correct that they cursed her uncle. Why didn't you tell me you wanted to use the photograph? She asked him. I'm sorry, I just felt like I had to. There was no other option. No, it was a brilliant, but why didn't you tell me beforehand? I thought of it on the spot, he said. Well, where are the photographs then? His face fell. That's the problem. That's the reason I could not offer them right away. I don't know where they are. I know Fawad must have been hidden them, but I have no idea where. Nettie stopped the ambassador at a petrol pump and got out. Indu gave Rana a sideways glance, but turned away when he saw her. Did you? She began, wondering whether she should go on, but then went for it anyway. Did you think about me at all while you were away? Rana titled his head before giving a rueful, lopsided smile. I did, every day. Indu raised her eyebrows at him. Did you think about me? He asked her. She shook her head in a clear no, and he laughed. You don't have to lie, you know. When Nettie got back in the car, he began in his baritone. ये दोस्ती हम नहीं तोड़ेंगे. How dare you sing this Bachchan song in my presence? Indu hissed at Nettie. What can I do, madam? Nettie asked. There is not any recent movie of Rajesh Khanna to sing from. Hello, which world you, huh? What about Prem Kahani? Indu replied. But I was singing it all of last week, madam, and you did not like it. Well, I don't like this either, but and I'm going to turn off this non-stop Natty radio if you don't stop promoting your Bachchan hero. Natty chuckled, looking at Rana's hesitatingly, who was laughing as well. Madam has started feeling insecure about Rajesh Khanna. Everyone has ever since Bachchan has came up. Oh, but Rajesh Khanna is the original superstar, Rana replied in a high-pitched sing-song voice in what Indu presumed was an imitation of her. Chapter 18. In those most vivid memories as a younger girl, young girl were of the times when people would crowd around her and ask her what she would like to be once she grew up. The aunties would pull at her cheeks, making pouty face, yelling their favorite suggestion at her. Indu say princess, say you will be a princess when you grow up. Indi usually ignored them. Instead, she would flip her hair, which was generally tied up in a ponytail by her mother, and say, I'm going to be a Bollywood superstar, while everyone would laugh and compliment her mother. Look at the next Madhubala, they would say to her mother and pat her on the back. But for a brief period before Indu decided she would become a Bollywood superstar, she not just wanted to be, but was sure that she would be the prime minister of country. She knew it in her heart that if there ever was a post of her for her, it was to be that of the Prime Minister of India. When her namesake was appointed the Prime Minister, Indu, who had just become a teenager, decided that while that Indu world would rule the country, she would rule people's hearts, she would be the superstar of Bollywood. Age had brought it its own lessons. Indu had learned that Bollywood was not for her and that she was content with an Indu being the Prime Minister. The Prime ministership meant just one thing to her, the post held by Indira Gandhi. Nobody else, not even herself, Indu had decided could take that place. With every passing day, however, Indu felt her faith and reverence dying in the face of all that she was and understood. It did not matter whatever the reason behind the emergency and whatever else they said. Someone Indu knew and valued was suffering unjustly, and there was nobody they could go to. She certainly could not broach any of this with her father, as he would immediately seek to put an end to it, questioning why she felt the need to take such measures for Rana. She could not appeal to the public police because they were most likely mixed up with everything going on. She could not reach out to the newspaper because they were not allowed to report these things. She could not even ask for the support of people because how could people protest something they did not even know was going on? In the thought, she felt a familiar helplessness in her father, but even of that she could not be sure. When she tried to speak to him, all she had received in response was grunts and hums, with a complete refusal to divulge any information about the emergency. It is not your interest, any of this, he had said to her. Just concentrate or enjoying your library. Anyway, you will be leave soon. But what if I want to stay? Indu had asked furiously. What if I want to stay here and fight? Fight what? He had asked, exasperated. This is not your fight. So you admit that is not yours. Her father bowed his head. I cannot do anything to stop what is happening. All I can do is to make sure that I keep my family out of trouble. Rajat visited Indu's house and insisted on taking her for a drive. Indu sat in the car with one leg crossed over the other, looking outside the road at the road going by. She could feel Rajat's sideways gaze boring into her. She finally gave in and looked at him, asking if he wanted to say something to her. Say something to you? Rajat asked incredulously. Saying something would be a bit of an understatement, don't you think? Indu had to agree with that one look. Look, I know I have gotten you in a bit of an adventure. I am sorry, but I think things will work out. He shook his head at her, astonishment on his face. Things will work out? I came here to marry you, and you are basically taking me on a chore police chase with criminals. I don't even get what's going on. They are not as criminals as you are making them sound. This is the emergency, and they have been wrongfully arrested. I don't know if they have been wrongfully arrested, and I don't care. There is a man in jail, he must have done something. Can you relax? It's not like that. Rana is willing to give up that photographs and then you can see for yourself in these photographs what has been happening all around us in this country. Tell me if clicking that makes them criminals. She stopped talking as they stopped on the side of a road and he put his head in his hands. Finally speaking after a couple of minutes of silence, listen Indu. Rajat began again. If you want me to help you, you have to promise me. As soon as this is over, you will end all of this madness and focus on the wedding. Can you give me your word? She imagined how Rajat must be feeling to return after 2 years, looking forward to meeting the woman whom he was going to marry, and instead getting dragged into having a fugitive released in the face of all that. His demand did not seem very unreasonable. She nodded. In the middle of all of this, it seemed like the stupidest question in the world when Indu's mother asked her when she planned to have the final fitting for her wedding sari. Indu had completely forgotten about it but said they could do it after the weekend. Her mother was already suspicious as it was not like Indu to take her clothes lightly. What made her even more curious was when she and Amita spent hours whispering together discussing the plan. Meanwhile, Rana was trying his best to lay his hands on those photographs. He got in touch with everyone they were associated with, which was a task on its own, as the people in the moment were obviously hard to trace. He disappeared for days at a time, and Indu would then curse herself again for getting into this mess with him. It was a couple of weeks later when Indu met him at Indian coffee house, where he arrived painting with the promise of some news. "What?" she asked, getting up from her chair. "Did you get them, the pictures?" "No," he said, still out of breath. "But I might just know where he hid them. I got to know that Fawad had visited the safe house when he reached Delhi before I arrived." Indu looked at him, confused. "The safe house? The place where I am staying," he whispered impatiently. "I told you where people can stay if they wish to remain in the city." "Oh, yes, so what if he went there? I have a hunch he hid the photographs there, right inside the house. I cannot believe I have seen there all of these days and never thought about this." "Is it a strong hunch?" she asked him. Rana nodded. "Let's go then," she said, getting up immediately. "Go where?" "To the safe house. Where else?" "But, Indu, you can't go there." "What do you mean?" "It's protected house. Nobody apart from the people in the resistance can know about it." "Listen, mister, haven't I proven myself loyal enough to know your secrets? You came to me after a year asking for help and I put everything I have in jeopardy to do that. Now you better not to tell me where I am, and I am not allowed." When Rana did not reply, Indu got up and told him she would look for Nettie. "No," he exclaimed. "We definitely can't take Nettie. We can't have anyone else knowing the location. No, if we have to go, we must do it ourselves." It was a single-storied, yellowing building in a little way from a past flying park somewhere in Mehrauli. A board outside it read, "Srimati Kamla Devi Organization for Women." "That's it?" I asked him. He nodded. She thought she might be missing something. "You are blocking my view with your big head," Indu said to Rana as he looked towards the building. "Well, it's time your head got used to seeing something other than its own reflection." "What did you say?" "I mean, your head should get used to seeing my head as it's going to be round. Do you get it?" Haha. "What now?" she asked him, ignoring his fairy bolognese. Rana suddenly looked very nervous and Indu patted him on the back as he gulped and finally nodded. As they walked towards the building, Rana's pace quickened, become more purposefully. He held Indu's hand tightly and glanced around furtively, but the thought of Fuad must have prevailed for he kept going. "How many people live inside the safe house?" Indu muttered to him. "Maybe three or four. Nobody really knows," he said. "The thing is, people come and go, and nobody talks to each other. Most of the time I have come back, there is hardly anyone, save for footsteps I hear on the staircase. You are not introduced to anyone unnecessarily for the sake of your own safety. You are allowed to stay here only if someone on the invisible vouches for you." The sky was light blue and the sun shone steadily on the park in front of the building. When they were close to the building's gate, Rana suddenly stopped and looked at Indu, unsure. "Maybe you should stay outside," he muttered to her. "I'll try to figure out where Fawad could have hidden the picture." "Don't be silly, Hindu East. Why do you think I have come all this way? Two eyes are better than one." "I have two eyes. I mean, two pairs of eyes are better. Rana, don't." They heard the gate crack as it swung lightly in the wind. The iron gate was unlatched and Rana walked in, Indu trailing him. A dusty corridor led them to what seemed like a government office. He pushed open a rickety wooden door to reveal a sad, old room that looked like it had not been inhabited for ages. Cobwebs covered the grimy walls, while old bent steel almirahs stood against the walls. Upon files lay on shelves across the walls, gathering dust. Some rocky wooden tables took center stage, looking surprisingly clean. Before Indu could ask anything, Rana was rummaging through his pockets, taking out a set of keys. Come on, he said to Indu, moving further into the office. Heading towards one of the bookshelves, she followed him, lifting her dupatta so it would not do the much needed sweeping that place required. What are you doing? She asked him as he began removing the books from the shelf one by one and putting them on the table. He did not reply and continued removing books, maintaining the order, and finally Indu saw way. Behind the books was another door. Rana inserted the key into it, rotting into it with a click. That's the safe, Indu began, but Rana shushed her. He began putting the books back in the same order and Indu helped him. He then stepped back and gave the bookshelf a little nudge, unveiling a dingy staircase that Rana immediately moved towards. When Indu did not follow him, he looked back her. What? He asked her. Indu did not reply and simply gave him a dubious look. Now, you take a moment to doubt my intentions, he asked. Incredulously, come on. The stairs were dark and unlit, leading down to some kind of basement, and Indu felt the wall beside her so as not to trip. When the stairs ended after turning a corner, Indu's mouth fell open. The dust and dinginess of upstairs was suddenly gone, although the area was dimly lit with lamps only in the corners. Indu saw that right in front of her hung a huge notice board. It had many scraps of paper with messages to one side, and the center had a layout of parliament. The entire surface of the notice board was covered with a paper, some with slogans written in bold letters, some which seemed to be code words. Indu tore her eyes away from the board to see lockers stashed untidily in a corner, stacks of newspaper, a desk on which lay multiple open files, some of which were full of charts and figures. A room from there led into what seemed to be the kitchen. The whole area seemed to be a bit haphazard. On the other side lay a couple of telephones on a desk, along with a typewriter behind which, uh, on a slab of wall, lay on transistor. Indu wondered how they kept all this functioning when Rana interrupted her train of thoughts. Okay, does not look like anyone's here, Rana said in a low voice. All the better for us. What about your leader? Shh, he said, alarmed and looking around. Let's go to my room. Go to my room. Come. He grabbed Indu's hand and pulled her through a labyrinth of shabby built rooms to step inside a tiny area no bigger than a storage place or prayer room, where his bag lay neatly in a corner next to the mattress where he presumably slept. Let's just try and look for the photographs quickly, okay, without drawing too much attention to ourselves. What about the lockers? He asked him. Rana shook his head. Somehow I can't imagine him giving up these photographs. Other people would have access to the lockers. It was our work, you see. No, if they are here, he would have hidden them somewhere hard to find. Indu was at a loss. How could they find the photographs in this clutter of a house? She felt a stab of annoyance at Rana. Why did he mention the photographs to their uncle when he did not know where they were? It's my last hand, she remembered him saying. They came out of his room and walked further into the corridor, which was lined with paintings, and she wondered how someone had found time to decorate this place. Now that they were here, it seemed ridiculous to Indu that they had gotten themselves in this mess. She had forgotten how it was before Rana had come into her life, and she had thought about him every single day. It was not her fault, she decided. He was the one who had Volta's invited with his poems and paintings, flowers and fancies. Let's just start looking around, he said. And I know we will get it. She opened a couple of drawers, going through the shelves of paper, frequently distracted by the writing on them. Rana too listlessly went through some stuff as the futility on the exercise hit him and they caught each other's eyes. Indu did not want to give up so easily, so she tried hard to think where it was in this place that Fawad could have left the photographs. Fawad arrived here from Gujarat, Rana was saying to himself, stayed here for a couple of days, went outside and then got caught. Her gaze again fell on the painting on the wall. Indu asked Rana who brought in this painting and he shrugged, saying they must be possessions of the residents who had been driven away at some point. She stared at the one with a blue lake and white lilies and houseboats. It was beautiful, like the hands had magic. The artist's hand had magic. She heard a noise and looked immediately at Rana. Someone must be coming, he said. Don't act alarmed, just stay calm and act like you belong. People come and go frequently. Sure enough, in a couple of minutes, a man dressed Shavely emerged from the corridor and looked at them curiously for a few seconds and then nodded, ducking inside a room and shutting the door behind him. A couple of minutes later, the same man came out again and went back, exiting by the stairs. Rana signed, "Look, maybe we should just lie to Dhar uncle, meet forward and ask him where. I don't know," he murmured. But Indu was again staring at the painting with the lake and the lilies and turned to look at him. He stared quizzically at her for a second and then longed for it. She told him to be quieter as he removed it from the wall and turned it around. There was nothing on the back of the painting, Indu whispered. How did you not recognize earlier that it was for arts? He shook his head, stunned, and suddenly felt at the back of the painting. He unhinged it, and out fell a package. Rana opened it with a quivering hands and took out a bunch of photographs. Oh my god! Indu extended her hands towards them and they quickly saw a couple of pictures. Rana held her by the shoulders. Let's go now, Indu said. Come. He held her to his room and picked up his bag, stuffing the photographs inside. He grabbed her hand and they left the room to find another man examining the painting they had just ripped open. Hello, he said, revealing a set of bad teeth. Chapter 19. The man had a thin stubble on his head and his face, and a dark complexion. He wore a shirt and a pair of trousers. He smiled at them graciously, leaning against the wall where the painting had hung. Indu thought he seemed like someone who meant business. He examined the dismantled painting and looked up at Rana for an explanation. Rana had become very still and refused to look at Indu. Namaste, VPG, he said. Indu wondered whether this was the leader. He certainly looked at with a dark shadow over his face, but he seemed to ordinarily and had an open, welcoming smile. Why would you tear this up? He asked Rana, glancing occasionally at Indu. And who is our lovely companion? Rana grinned broadly. VPG, meet Indu, my girlfriend. Indu gave Rana a sharp glance, but he forgotten the terms of their deal. VPG looked pleased, however, and stepped forward to shake her hand. But that's wonderful, he said. I would love to get to know you. We must sit down for a chai. Indu smiled uncertainly and looked at Rana, who nodded and immediately put his bag down. As he put some water to boil on the stove, VPG sat down opposite Indu on a chair, staring at her with interest. Indu, VPG said, his fingers drumming the table. Sort of. Short for Indra. Indu said yes with a weak laugh, and VPG seemed absolutely delighted, unable to stop smiling in amusement. The woman of the moment, he exclaimed. It's perfect that we have you here. You know how much Indraji would love this place, don't you? Indu simply laughed, not answering. So, Rana is your boyfriend, he asked her. And Indu at looked up at her boyfriend. He deliberately had his back to her. Yes, she said, feeding with her dupatta, and then added with an eye roll, unfortunately. VPG chuckled and looked fondly at Rana. And you will get married? Of course, Rana replied over the brewing chai. Otherwise, what kind of man would I be? VPG twiddled his fingers and looked at Indu with twinkling eyes. So tell me about yourself. What do you do? How do you meet? Indu again looked at Rana with trepidation. She was not sure how much to tell VPG, again wondering why he had said she was his girlfriend, probably because they were not allowed to bring anyone here unless they trusted them implicitly. Well, I met him through a teacher. He helped me set up a library for sort of, and then we got to know each other. Amazing, he said, clapping his hands together. He is very charming, isn't he? Desperately so, she said. Rana grinned from the kitchen, pouring the chai into cups and bringing on each for the three of them. So, how did you get involved in this resistance? VPG asked, still smiling. Indu took an extra large sip of her tea and burnt her tongue as she thought about what to say and then cleared her throat. Well, I heard about fraud and have also been hearing about the government's injustice. I am sympathetic to the cause and eager to learn more about it. VPG nodded, waiting for her to say more, and when she did not, he looked at Rana. VPG, he said, leaning towards him over the table and staring at him with intensity. We are going to get fought out. His mouth fell open and he held Rana by the shoulder. Make him escape from prison? No, Rana said in a tone that Indu thought was almost rueful. No, we have something else in mind. We are getting him in a barter Barter for what? Rana glanced at Indu, and when she did not react, went to his bag and retrieved the picture. Here, he said, laying the picture on the table. On the next to the other, there were several pictures of the street, policemen holding up lathis, armed men in cars, a policeman with his gun up in the air, an advertisement that said, Stylages is the best method of family planning. Incentives male rupees 40, female 20. A man bent over the ground, people lining up again onside a makeshift doctor's clinic with a similar papers in their hands. Incredible, BPG said, going over them, passing a few to the other man. Yes, I remember Ford mentioning this. A few other boys also took similar pictures. They are still in Ahmedabad though. Yours are definitely incredible. He turned to Indu and said, This is the kind of work that will bring down the government, Indu. This is what a few of us must do to undo this tyranny. Rana nodded, holding a picture. We need to let go of this, though, for Fawad. And who is this source of the barter? Who is getting him out? Rana looked at Indu and BPG nodded. Her father has some connection, he said. Indu nodded, knowing that he could not very well say her fiancé. And who is your father? VPG asked mildly. Neither Indu nor Rana answered for a few seconds. Ajit Narayan. He finally said hesitantly, Chief Advocate. VPG nodded, his fingers on the table. It will definitely work, VPG, Rana said again. I don't want him to suffer, I want to bring him out. And what is your father's position on the issue? He is sympathetic to the resistance, Indu said. Oh, he is? As far as he can be in his position. Indu sensed a change in his manner and looked at Rana. Perhaps they should never have told him. She wondered if Rana had been foolish in trusting him. And does your father know that you are here? VPG asked her. No, Rana said. Of course not. No one knows she is here. She does not even know where the safe house is located. We followed all the rules. She was blindfolded when I got her here. Indu nodded vigorously, but it seemed like the damage was done. And how does your father feel about your upcoming alliances? Well, that's our business, Indu said briskly. Also, I think we should get going. We don't want to miss our meeting. Rana nodded and Indu collected all the photographs again, putting them back in the package. VPG nodded and got up swiftly, walking back into the corridor as Indu picked up her dupatta and Rana stuffed the package back into his bag. Ah, yes, I should blindfold you again when we got out, Rana said. Indu widened her eyes at him but did not say anything more, as Rana was obviously thinking of what he could use as possible blindfold and indicate her dupatta. She handed it to him with a glare. He put it over her eyes, wrapping it around her head and trying it at the back. Okay, give me your hand, he muttered to her. What do you mean, give? Take it. I can't see where your hand is. He grabbed her hand and they had barely walked a few steps when she felt Rana stop dead in his tracks. What? She asked, but he did not reply. A long silence followed. She felt another presence and guessed that it was BPG. Rana, she asked again, but he did not reply and clutched her hand tighter instead. She had opened her mouth to say his name again when he pinched her thumb and she sat up. They were suddenly moving backwards. Rana made her sit on the chair again. She praised off the knotted dupatta from her eyes and gasped. VPG stood with a gun pointed at them, all smiles gone from his face, and she turned to Rana, who seemed as unawed as she was. Beads of sweat formed on Indu's palm and she held Rana's hand tighter. Sit, VPG said, his voice crisp, and Rana sat next to Indu. What are you doing, VPG? Rana began in a small voice. He looked sharply at Rana. How much does she know? He asked. She is on our side, VPG, Rana said immediately. I can swear to you, I vouch for her completely. I vouch for her on my life. She is helping us get far back. We swear to you, it's true. Indu nodded vigorously, noticing how much Rana had pleaded and how VPG had remained steady holding his gun. A silence followed, and Indu thought VPG was trying to make up his mind about her. When Rana tried to get up from the chair, he jabbed the gun in Indu's direction. VPG, why are you doing this? Rana protested. Don't speak, he roared. Indu sat with her heart beating thunderously, waiting for the worst. They both sat staring at BPG and Indu glanced frequently at Rana. She tried to signal the Rana to say something after what seemed like hours. BPG slowly lowered the gun and Rana smiled encouraged. That's right, he said. pacifying him. She does not mean any harm, VPG. You were being paranoid. You can see I will blindfold her and lead her outside right until we reach the city. She has no idea about the location of the safe house. Come here, I want to talk to you, he said, now staring right at Rana. Rana made as if to move towards him and then stopped himself. Anything you want to say can be said here, VPG. I'm telling you, you can trust her. VPG stared daggers back at them and then continued. I am sorry to have pulled the gun out. He replied shortly. I was not sure what to think about her. Indu tried not to look exasperated, for he still had the gun. After all, Rana nodded, holding up his hands. It's fine, we must be cautious. After all, these are dangerous times. But VPG was staring at Indu. She looked at Rana, feeling conscious under his gaze. Your father is getting far release, he said. A statement, not a question. Indu nodded after a pause. Why not more people? What? Why won't he get more people released? Indu gazed at him. Because he can't. Even getting one person out is very tough. But he's doing it, VPG said. Yes, he's doing it because we asked him, and also these photographs. So he's not really on our side, is he? Then, if he is asking for something in exchange, you don't understand. You don't know the position we are in. How we are even managing this? VPG, Rana began. It's not just her father. We are taking the help of other members of the family and Indu's fiance. Her father does not even know about any of this. We have to exchange the picture of art. VPG got up from his chair, his hands folded behind his back, and began pacing up and down the corridor. What if we keep her here? He asked, looking at Rana. Her family would exchange way more people for Indu, wouldn't they? Indu heart turned to stone, and she could tell that Rana too was completely shocked. She heard forced patience in his tone when he spoke next. VPG, think about what you are saying. Holding an innocent woman hostage, using her as leverage, putting her life in danger. We don't do that, or we would be like them, ready to dispose as we will use as per our interest and profits. But VPG now placed faster than ever, shaking his head. Rana, you are not thinking about the big picture here. Forget about your relations with her for a moment. Now, not that what you told me was honest anyway. As you said, she has a fiance, but think about how valuable she could be. We could get several of our top people out of it, her father or fiance or whoever valued her life. She would be far greater political leverage. Are you out of your mind, VPG? Rana yelled, getting up from his chair, using an innocent woman in his this. I thought this moment was greater than that. Think coolly, use your head. It's not only fast life that is important, there are so many of our valuable members inside. Okay, I am not part of this anymore, Rana said, slapping his hands on the table. Indu, come on, let's go. Indu got up from her chair but found her path blocked by VPG. Rana sighed in frustration. Look, we won't harm him. If that's what you are thinking, VPG said, it's not about her, it's about the bigger movement. She can stay comfortably in your room and not a hair on her head. We will trust. We are not mistreating her in any way, but we can't just let an opportunity like this get away. Rana now sat with his head in his hand, silent. He stayed that way for a long time, then looked up at him again. So, you are saying she won't be harmed in any way? Indu could not believe her ears and stared at him incredulously. Not at all, VPG said soothingly, almost laughing at the suggestion. What we will achieve by harming her? We are not monsters. She can stay here. In return, we will ask that in addition to Ford, a few more of our top men who also have been unjustifiably imprisoned be let off. Innocence released for an innocent released. It is not our duty to do all we can for those whom we share to protect. It is not up to us to save as many as human lives as we can. In fact, considering what at stake, the price she can fetch us, if she is truly on our side, she would volunteer to be held hostage. Indu could not help it. She laughed at the preposterous suggestion, unable to control her gulf, and to her astonishment, looked up to find Rana and not laughing. She gaped at him, betrayed that he did not find it ludicrous. This is how it feels when someone close to you is incarcerated for no apparent reason. VPG engaged him on. Is the perfect plan, and the way I see it, we have nothing to lose. They let our people go out at a certain location, pardoning all charges. We let Indu go from here, chastity, dignity, everything intact. Not even the ends of her dupatta crumpled. Everyone is happy. You have got to be kidding me, Indu said. now standing next to Rana, nudging him. Can you believe this guy? Has he gone nuts because he been trapped here for so many days? But Rana did not wear expression on his face and looked, in fact, too enthusiastic, pretty convinced by what BPG said. He is not saying anything wrong, Indu, he said in a low voice to her. Just think of what we can achieve. Using your name this way was what we should have done all along, instead of other pretty things. Have you lost your mind? She shrieked. Do you know how much trouble we will be in? How much trouble my father will be in? Have you absolutely no sense? Indu dear, VPG said, now grinning broadly. Just think, your father will be so ecstatic just to have you back that nothing else will matter, absolutely nothing else. A few prisoners would be nothing. Stop this madness now. Indu got up from her seat and attempted to walk away but found her path again blocked by VPG. Rana, she yelled, looking at him. Rana walked towards her, looking apologetic. Indu, try and understand. Nothing is going to happen to you. All VPG is suggesting is that we fake this kidnapping and see what we can get out of it. You said that you wanted to help all, didn't you? Indu could not believe what she was hearing. She felt her way to the table, picking up their chai cup, and threw it straight to Rana. It hit him on the forehead and fell on the floor. Cracked. Rana winced in pain as VPG came up behind her, holding her arms in a lock. Indu struggled against his hold and began screaming at the top of her voice as BPG yelled at Rana to help him. Rana went to a drawer in which there were ropes. They tied Indu's arms and legs and put a gag over her mouth so she would not scream. Indu saw Rana looks of her pure venom as he massaged his forehead. She did not want to believe what had just happened, yet the minutes passed. He avoided looking at her. Do you want to know how I came into this moment? Indu, VPG asked her. And Indu raised her eyebrows sarcastically. VPG gave a low chuckle. I was forced to join in. There I was, sitting peacefully in my home one day, not really bothered by any kind of emergency when they arrived at my doorstep and declared my home was illegal. I was confused. How could my home be illegal? They said our entire colony was illegal, that it did not exist on paper, and so we must leave. My wife asked me what to do, but I had no answer. The next day, when we sat outside our homes refusing to move, they beat us and kicked us aside, knocking over all that we knew to be home. If we expected Indu to show sympathy, she displayed none. Did your father think about the legality of destroying 200 homes? Chief advocate that he is. Indu wanted to tell him that it was not up to him, but was barely paying attention anymore. All she could think about was Rana's betrayal. Her mind turned to whether anyone at home had noticed her absence already. She was dimly aware of Rana hovering around her. Rana and VPG huddled together in front of her, mumbling in low whispers. The cloth was tied around her mouth. They sat that way for some time, discussing plans in low voices, and she even saw VPG pat Rana on the back once. She wondered how she could have been so wrong so many times about a person as she seemed in danger. She saw Rana say something in VPG's ear and then pin him against the wall, swiftly grabbing the gun from him. She stared at him as he pointed the gun against at VPG face. Stand back, he growled at VPG's, whose expression went from shock to anger. You will regret this, son. Shut up, Rana yelled at him, backing up to where Indu was, removing cloth from her mouth. If I give you a knife, can you cut the ropes? He asked urgently. So you are not in his side? Indu asked him. He could not help looking at her in expression. Of course not. Did you actually buy that? Indu shrugged. I told you that if anybody could act like Rajesh Khanna, it's me. Anyway, wait. He headed over to the kitchen counter slowly, still pointing the gun straight at VPG, and brought back a knife. Do it, he said to Indu. I need to keep this bastard inside. VPG shut his eyes and began singing, "Eh mere watan ke logo." Indu and Rana looked at each other incredulous, but Rana shook his head and urged Indu to hurry up. Rana, this is not the way to insaf, VPG said after a while. I know, Rana said shortly, but yours is not the way either. You freak keeping her hostage. Now don't talk or I'll blast your head off. VPG smiled. You are not a killer, Rana. I know that, especially not one who kills their own leader. He began to walk forward with his hands up in the air, and Rana warned him to stand back. When he continued walking, there was a defiant Deafening blast, Indu jumped and the knife fell from her hands. As the smoke from the gun disappeared, she saw a bullet emerge in the wall. Rana's expression was furious. I thought I told you to stand back. Indu saw VPG gulp and take a step back, horrified that Rana had actually fired. Indu then continued cutting the ropes on her wrist and finally freed herself. Go, Rana said. She grabbed her dupatta and shot VPG a look of the deepest loathing. If you dare come after us, Rana said to VPG, we will make sure the police comes knocking on this safe house next. Their auto rickshaw wobbled dangerously on the road, but neither Indu nor Rana cared, still reeling from the shock of what had just happened. They did not say anything for about a minute, and then Indu let out a sound of relief and hugged him sideways. Surprised to find that he too was shaking, the auto driver watched them in a mirror, but they ignored him. She wrapped her dupatta around herself. I thought you had really turned on me back there, Indu said. Is that why you hit me on so hard with a cup? With that cup, he asked. Of course. Pity all the practice of dodging things before did not work out, but only because you caught me unawares. What in the world was that, though? Why did he suddenly flip like that? Indu asked him. Rana seemed to be having trouble processing what had just happened, so Indu gave him some time. He finally looked at her, a vacant expression in his eyes, and said after a few seconds, his voice cracking, I am sorry. I didn't know. I felt a bit nervous about taking you there, but I just never knew that it could stop to this level. Got greedy. What's the difference? Shattered my faith. He was now bombing bites of phrases, and Indu patted him on the back. I always knew he was ruthless. He went on. But to this extent, he could dare to even suggest that we kidnap you. After I said we will be married. What sort of madman? Indu nodded sympathetically, lost in her own thoughts. She had thoughts. She understood how things worked, how authority and distance functioned. She thought that the line between the good guys and the bad guys would be clearly demarcated, but this encounter had left her more confused than ever. Rana bowed his head in a shame. I don't know what to say. I wonder what the other people in the moment will think of it if they find out. Just goes to show that humans, even well being ones, can go to any extent get what they want. Indu reflected on this, finding herself agreeing, and yet it was hard to make peace with it. Nice game of golf there, by the way, she told Rana. A grin spread across his face. Once I saw how seriously he believed in his plan, I knew there was no way to change his mind. So I had to act convinced. I was hoping he would keep talking to me. Why? It's easier to fool talkative people, he said. Matter of faculty, that's why I'm always able to pull a faster one over you. Oh, please, when you have ever pulled on over me, and you are the one talkative one. The conversation kept them going as they headed towards Ganpati Tower. It was quite late at night, and then Indu knew she would have a lot to explain when she got home. But for now, they had a more pressing problem at hand. Where in the world was Rana to say? Just stay at number 7 tonight. It's safe, nobody will expect you to be there, and tomorrow in the morning before the girls start to arrive, I'll come and let you out. I'll tell Dhar uncle we have the picture and are under a lot of pressure. So if he wants to make the exchange, it needs to happen very soon. We will make the exchange and get this over with once and for all, Indu said. He stared at her for a few seconds and then stopped. She got down at Ganpati Tower as well when the auto stopped. And Indu, Rana called out as she walked away. She turned around and stopped right at the apartment gate. What? He was silent for a moment, but only a moment. I wanted to tell you that I love you, he said suddenly in a rush. I mean, he went on, I really do. When I think about you, I know it immediately in the way my heart swells. If I go back in time, I would tell myself not to be an idiot and tell you the first time I met you and that I loved you and wanted to marry you and would do anything in the world to give you beautiful life. Tears now streamed down on her cheeks, but she refused to look at him. But I see you struggling with it, bending to pressures, and I hate that. I complicated it for you like this. More than that, I can't bear that every day. I put you in even more danger. I want to be able to end this for you. I'll go away and never contact you again after this. But I love you too, she said before she could stop herself. She saw his jaw tighten with emotion. He extended his hand to her. And Indu saw that he was about to say something when the little Sardarji popped up at the gate. She cursed him silently was about to signal to Rana to hide, but realized it was too late when she saw the boy already waving enthusiastically at Rana. Rana's eyes grew wide too, but he recovered quickly and smiled, while Indu tried to think of an excuse. Rana Bhaiya, the little boy said, jumping in excitement as Rana patted him awkwardly on the head. Where were you all these months? I was away on some work, Rana said lamely. I was so happy you were back. Indu saw that he looked genuinely happy. It was always fun to have you here. Indu Didi scolds everyone a lot. Rana chuckled quietly. He is not here to stay, Indu said. In fact, he was just here for 2 minutes to pick up a book. He is going now to Kerala and he does not really want to stay to say hi to anyone, so don't tell anyone he was here, okay? No, he replied with a pout. You are going again? Stay here, you can't stay with me. I would love to, but I have some work this day. When I am finished, I'll definitely come back to see you, Rana replied. Don't tell anyone that he was here, Indu said to him strictly again, or I will set the ghost of number 7 on you. There are ghosts in number 7? He asked, his mouth slightly open. Of course, Indu said with a cackle of laughter. Who else do you think stays here at night? An empty house is very comfortable for ghosts. I lock them in the house, but if I let them loose, they like to go to the homes of little sardars and cut off their chudis. At that, the little boy put his palms to his eyes, pretending he could not see Rana, and walked back to the building. Realizing how late it was, Indu rushed away before Rana could say anything about their interrupted conversation. She reached home to find her father at the door and felt nervous again. Where have you been, Indu? He asked her carefully, and she guessed some of the distress might be showing on her face. Indu took a deep, calming breath before answering. I was just out, with some friends watching a movie. That's why it took so long. Hera Fairy, he said, naming the first movie that came on her mind. Really? I thought you did not like Bachchan. I don't, of course, but my friends dragged me. Why didn't you ne- ask Nettie to take you? She suddenly felt quiet. Just like that, I didn't want to bother. Uh, I just used the bus. I got to get to used to it for London. Her father looked at her strangely and she wondered how high pitched she sounded. Come, sit here, he said, indicating the sofa. Tell me how's your day. She followed him to the sofa, taking a seat beside him. Good, regular. It was getting better at handling everything, and I am very glad about it. I really love being there. Indu hoped he understood the meaning of her words, and he took some time to answer. He nodded. It's good you started this right. I remember you were so excited. She laughed nervously. I still am. You fought Govinda so hard to get hold number 7. She did not answer. Amita was also on your side. Perhaps that caused a rift, but never mind that now. And then you found that chap. What was his name again? Rana, she answered carefully, now looking around for her mother. She must be in her bed already. Quite smart, that one, wasn't he? She did not answer again, and her heart began pounding. Was it possible he knew? No, it could not be. Natty would never. Not in a million years. Smart fellow. He asked me for a job. He asked me for a job at some point. He will do well life. I can tell. I know you two were friends, but also, alas, everything was already fixed. He was talking to himself now. What are your intentions then? He asked her. What? What do you mean? Your intentions? To marry Rajat? The question left a bitter aftertaste in her mouth. I don't think my intent was considered very much, she said. Indu wondered why her father made a face as if this piece of information was news to him. Indu, he said, holding the side of the sofa, we never, we are very loyal. We would never stop you from. That is not fair. Indu restrained from retorting. I know, but you knew all along you would marry Rajat. You have known it for 2 years and you never said anything. Yes, I never did say anything also. And so this is the last thing you should ask someone when their marriage is already fixed. He stared at her before shutting his eyes and leaning against the sofa, and she walked out of the room, too scared to stay longer, unsure of where the conversation would lead. Jai Ram Ji ki, Natty said when he saw Rana early morning, slouched comfortably on the couch, his arms behind his head. Rana grinned at Natty's greeting and held up his own folded hands, bowing his head. So, you are in back in the library? He asked him. I just could not live without it. The flip side is that to see number 7. I have to bear her as well, Rana said, pointing to Indu. You have to take care of this idiot, Natty, she said. He has nowhere to go for the day. Take him around, feed him something, go sit in a park, chill out. I don't care. Bring him back in the evening and hopefully we will get this situation sorted out soon. Half an hour later, girls started arriving and took their seats. Indu called Rajat and told him they had what was needed. She asked him if Dhara uncle might possibly be ready to make the exchange as more complication had arisen. You should ask him, he replied testily. She decided she did not have time to analyze his mood. Please give me his number, she said and noted it down. I'll tell you what the plan is, okay? She added, but he did not answer and just said goodbye. She then called Dhar uncle and told him that they must make the barter as soon as possible, and after much cajoling, he said he would try his best for the next day. The morning hustle had started settled down, and Indu had been idle for just 2 minutes. Her thoughts constantly wandered to how her mother was already discussing their living arrangements in London with Supriya auntie. Indu marveled how this part of her life was so distant from the rest of what was happening. She thought her day would pass uneventually till her uncle called her back and told her it could be done tonight. Finishing their talk, she immediately called Rajat. Okay, we should make the exchange tonight here. Then Indu said, at 11 p.m., okay? Most people should be in their homes already. I'll tell my parents I'm sleeping at Didi's house. Right, will you come? She asked him. I'll see. Her day passed in anxiety and she could hardly pay attention to anything, constantly flipping between what had happened last night and imagining how tonight would go. She informed Amita, who promised she would be there with Indu. Amita told Govind that she would be sleeping at her parents' house. Indu's mind worked non-stop. She found her father's behavior the previous night odd. Why had he asked her what her intentions were? Maybe Rajat had said something to him, or maybe her mother had commanded on her how mind was not fully on the wedding preparation. Mostly important, she stopped herself from the moment her mind strayed to what Rana had said when they had said goodbye. In the evening, she called Dharangal again to check that everything was on track and was glad to know that it was. Just tonight, Indu thought, after tonight, all this would be over and she would be free to think about the other things. Not to think about so much as get to used to Rana living her life again. Indu thought and to focus on her new life with Rajat. It was late evening, would be free to think about her other things, not to think about so much as get used to Rana living her life again in the thought, and to focus on her new life with Rajat. It was the late evening by the time the last of the girl left, and Amita strolled in, greeting and smiling them on their way out. Sangeeta had just been telling Indu how she had been feeling quite low recently. Indu nodded sympathetically and casually asked her if she remembered Fawad. Indu noticed Sangeeta's eyes light up as she nodded neatly. Of course, he was so funny, just like Ranaji. I wonder where he went. Indu shrugged nonchalantly, trying to hide her delight that Sangeeta had gotten so excited at the mention of Ford and how happy that would make him. Yeah, I really wish I had the chance to speak to him more, Sangeeta said, as Indu marveled at the ironies of life. I mean, I don't know, but I thought there was something about him. He was also so sweet to me, too. I wanted to ask you where he was, but then you know how girls like to gossip here. Oh, well, what's going on? Gone is gone. She eventually left with melancholy goodbye. It would be something nice to tell Fawad when her uncle brought him there that night. Indu and Amita had been sitting and talking when Rana walked in with Natty. Indu instructed Natty to go back home and leave the investor there and tell her parents that Indu had been dropped off to Amita's. Indu asked Rana in a low voice if he still had the gun that he took from PG. While Amita unpacked some food she had brought along, he nodded slightly. Get rid of it as soon as possible, she said. Rana nodded. I can't wait to see Fawad. Ask him how he is. The three of them played cards for some time as evening turned to night. Oh, Indu said, I forgot to tell you what Sangeeta told me today. Fawad will be so happy. She had a crush on him. She told me. She said he was funny. Rana got up from his seat, his hands on his head. Really? Oh my god, he will be thrilled. Who is this? Amita asked lazily from the couch. The same Sangeeta who used to teach Isa. Indu nodded keenly. Ah, the good old days, Amita said, staring dreamily into space, telling Rana, I had to move back into my home to study for some time. Into Indu's room, in fact, I used to come to number 7 with her, study all day, eat dinner with my parents, and then Indu and I would giggle and gossip about boys after dinner. Really? Rana asked, chuckling. And who did you gossip about? Well, she would talk about you so much, Amita told him absent-mindedly. Who was that girl who started coming in for some time, the one with short curly hair? Renu. Oh, whatever. Yeah, Indu used to complain about her a lot. Indu pointed her eyes at Amita, but her sister was not paying attention. Rana caught her eye, but she looked away, pretending it was not true. Well, anyway, it was great because I had to see so little of Govind. You know, he can really be a pain. She was silent before she said softly, I think there was a point where I could have loved him, but I lost that hope when I moved back in with him. Maybe what they say is right. It falls apart without the children. They sat in a silence for some time, then each lost in their own thoughts. At long last, it was close to evil 11, and they got ready for the arrival of the expected party. At exactly 11 p.m., the bell rang. Amita sat daintily on the sofa while Rana stood at the very back, the pictures snug in the pocket of his jacket and his arms crossed over it. Indu set the dupatta on her shoulder, gave a note to Rana and Amita, and opened the door. Their uncle stood outside looking as tall as ever, dressed in a suit immaculate. His pepper grey hair shimmered in the glow of the light in the corridor, and he gave a slight nod, waiting for Indu to invite him in. Indu glanced swiftly behind him, and when she did not see anyone, looked quizzically at him. Dhar uncle looked at his to his right, and Fawad came into view, standing further down the corridor. The first thing that Indu saw was that he looked haggard. There was a dark shadows beneath his eyes, his hair unevenly cut, a rough beard grew on his face, hiding his dimple, and his entire body seemed to have shrunk. The usual sign on his face was missing, but when he gave a small smile, he looked like a shadow of his old self. Indu wanted to take a step toward him to give him a hug, but stopped herself and instead backed up so that they could enter number 7. When they walked in, Indu saw him and Rana exchange a friendly, wistful look. She then noticed that four breasts were still tied together. Dhar uncle looked at Indu. Let's sit here. Amita called out from the sofa, making him jump. He had not noticed that there were more people there. My name is Amita. I am Indu's sister, she said, and he nodded greeting at her. He went over to sofa and Fawad followed him. So, said Indu. Dhar uncle nodded. Would you like anything? She asked uncertainly. Water, tea, or something? Photographs, please, Dhar uncle said, extending his hand. Forward first, Rana said from the back, and Dhar uncle looked up sharply at him. I have him here. You can see it. I still don't know whether you have the photographs. Rana stared at him for a few seconds and then shook his head. Dhar uncle looked at Indu in appeal, and she signaled to Rana that they could trust him. Reluctantly, Rana walked over to Dhar uncle and handed him the brown package. He took a good 5 minutes going through the picture, inspecting each and every of them, his eyebrows going higher and higher until they finally threatened to disappear into his paper grey hair. These are all your own pictures, he asked. Fawad spoke up for the first time. We put our lives on a stake for them. Are there any other photographs that are not among this? Dhar uncle asked. Rana was indicated. I would not do any something as immoral as blackmailing you for something and then not holding up my end of the bargain. If I did blackmail you in the first place, Dhar uncle stared the three of them for a few seconds but did not say anything. He went through everything again while Fawad impatiently asked Rana to untie him. Rana had barely gotten up when the doorbell rang again. Indu looked at Amita in alarm. No one was supposed to know they were even here unless it was Rajat. But why would Rajat not have arrived with Dhar uncle if he wanted to come? Indu put a finger to her lip to indicate the others that no one should say anything. They all sat still and the bell rang again, thrice in a row, and then somebody banged on the door. Rana quietly suggested that everyone tiptoe into another room. Once everyone was in the other room, Indu went to the door and opened it, hoping it was just a little boy across the corridor. Her heart turned to lead when she saw Roshan standing there and Govind Bhai and three men behind them. Good evening, Indu, Govind Bhai said, smiling at her dangerously. Are not you supposed to be sleeping over at my house right now? When Indu did not reply or move from the door, Roshan gave her a little shove and walked inside, with the other following him. Indu wanted to protest but suddenly had no voice left her in her. She walked back, her body shaking as Roshan shouted for the others to come out. Dhar uncle walked out and asked what was going on. Roshan ignored him and asked the other three men to go inside the room. Next thing Indu knew, they had dragged Rana, Fawad and Amita out of the room. Indu yelled at Roshan to stop it and he asked the third man to let Amita go. What the hell do you think you are doing? Indu screamed, and perhaps it was the treble of her voice. But Roshan paused for a second and then asked his men to back off. They were now on one side and Indu, Amita and Rana Fawad on the other side, while Dhar uncle stood in the middle trying to understand what was going on. Govind stepped to the front. He and Amita stared at each other for the longest time without saying anything, and just when Indu was about to speak up, Govind spoke. It was an interesting evening today, he remarked mildly. I was going over some work at home when I got a visit from Roshan here, who introduced himself as Indu's fiance's brother. When no one replied, he smiled and went on. I was completely taken aback, wondering why he was at my home, but I invited him in. Of course, that's what decent people like us do. But then he showed me a picture of this man. He jerked his head towards forward and asked me if I knew him. I said, of course I know him. He is the one who malign my family, someone who should have been put in a jail in a long time back. Guess what Roshan told me then? Indu looked at her future brother-in-law, hating him. Govind clapped his hands. He told me that my wife, who is supposed to be at the home for her parents, is meeting him tonight. If Amita felt anything, she didn't show it. Her face did not betray emotion, apparently taking no note of the fact that Govind was now staring at her in intense dislike. I told you not to help her, Roshan told their uncle with annoyance. Your brother was fine with it, their uncle replied. My brother, Roshan emphasized, was the one who told me about Govind and his problems with his wife. He was the one who advised me to talk to Amita's husband and ask him to put some sense into her. Who knew I would open a Pandora box? I mean, Govind told me that he had some unfinished business with the man, that his wife was trying to get released. Wrote some things that put Govind's uncle in a trouble, I am all told. Indu could not believe that he had gone to this extent. I don't get your problems, he said to Roshan brusquely. This is none of your business. You are my problem, he told her. See, I don't believe you actually care about my brother. Now I don't care if you are in love with this loafer here, but to actually ask my brother to help your boyfriend, that pissed me off. I suggested to Govind here that the sum might be true for her sister. He did not believe me when I said you would be here. I asked him to come with me. While Amita remained unfazed, Indu felt a surge of her anger. She stepped forward, her arms folded, now talking directly to Roshan. I have heard enough of your bullshit. You better get out of here. This is our house and you have no right to step in here. Roshan smiled widely. Your house, is it? We will go, but we are talking this too with us. Taking these two with us. Both of them should have been picked up together in the first place. He saw that he pointed at Rana and Ford, at which point Rana laughed. He stepped forward and now he and Roshan were face to face. Sorry, but I am not interested in going anywhere with you. I don't like your look. Roshan smiled at Rana and before Indu could figure out what was happening, they were locked in a fight. They pushed, shoved and punched each other, knocking over some books. From bookshelf, Ford was trying to fend off the three of men, kicking and punching as hard as he could. Their uncle stood to one side and both the sisters watched in a horror. Indu was sure that it would be only a matter of minutes before someone came in the door. In desperation, she tried to call out to Rana, but to no avail. Then she saw his bag lying on the floor and picked it up, rummaging inside, gripping when she found out what she was looking for. Stop, she yelled, and when no one heard her, she decided she had no choice. Getting her teeth and making sure she hit the ceiling, she fired a shot upward, and there was a loud blast. Plaster fell to the ground. Silence fell as scuffle, and suddenly, I am going to say this once, Indu said quietly. Leave all five of you. Or what? Govind sneered, walking towards her. You are going to make your own sister a widow? Watch me, Indu replied to Govind, refusing to put the gun down. Govind laughed and Roshan joined him. Roshan picked up a book and began flipping the pages. Indu wondered whether he had gone beyond. I think it's a little too late. If you are looking to endure yourself, Rana said to him. Roshan suddenly took out his lighter, set fire to the book, and threw it to the floor. What kind of a child are you? Indu hissed. You will be ruining my things if you can't have your way. He ignored her and looked at Govind now. Didn't you say this place was the cause of your broken marriage? Well, you should have done this already, don't you think? He asked as he added another book to the previous one, which started burning. Her uncle told him to stop, but Roshan ignored him, rattling the shelves so that the books fell down with a clatter. Rana moved forward to make him stop, but Roshan threw a burning book at him, so he backed off. Let's see, he said manically, if Indu Narayan can protect her burning library. Indu added more books to the burning piles as Indu yelled at him to stop. That there was other thing in the building, but Roshan seemed to have lost all sense. I don't even know why your brother likes you. My brother likes you, he went on. Looking at your company, I can easily tell you are not going to be an honest woman, let alone an honest wife. Indu was not listening now. She moved and pointed the gun right at Roshan's face. Still, it was only when he could no longer stand the heat from the burning pile of books that he turned around and left, and the others followed him. Govind gave Amita a final look, sweeping look. Now is the time to choose, Amita, he said. She turned away from him towards Indu. I chose long ago. The gun fell from Indu's hand with a chatter as the man left the flat. Quickly, we have to douse this. Rana and Ford tried to put it out with their jackets, but the flames were too strong. There was no bucket in the bathroom which she could fill with water and pour it on the books. They looked around widely as flames spread until a bookshelf fell right on the fire, burning alongside the books. We need to leave, Amita said urgently. No, we have to douse the fire. But the fire was now past containing and they dragged into out of the door. We will have to call the fire brigade, Rana yelled. Indu, come. There there were already clouds of black smoke in the house. As Indu and Rana went into the corridor, she saw her sister through the smoke, clutching Fawad's arm as they held themselves against the wall, trying to shield themselves from the heat. She saw Rana look around in a panic and then at her. He took her dupatta and threw it far from them. We must warn. Indu panted, and the neighbors with her right arm. Indu covered her nose as her eyes watered from the smoke, and she struggled to keep them open but gave up, blindly being pulled by Rana as they crossed the corridor, and her uncle followed them. Amita covered her nose with a skirt of her kurta as the five of them coughed helplessly, unable to keep their eyes open for longer than a few seconds. She could now see a burning cabinet through the door of number 7, and she banged on the Sardar's door. The father came to the door, groggy and confused, and Indu asked him to evacuate. Smoke was emerging from the door of number 7 now, and Rana, Fawad, and her sister were backed in the corridor waiting for Indu. Dhar uncle was on their stairs. You two have to go, she said to them as a fit of coughing overcome her. Dhar uncle, please, you have the pictures. These two can't be seen here. Come, he said to them urgently. Rana opened his mouth to protest but was pulled away by Fawad, and she was just a flittering glimpse of him stumbling down the stairs. Indu and Amita got out of the building as more heads began to move, emerge from the windows, and cries of the fire echoed from the flats. Indu held Amita's hand and just about managed not to collapse on the ground. Where to, madam? Natty asked as Indu stepped inside the ambassador. Masterji. Indu answered listlessly. With a prompt yes, madam, Natty set off and Indu leant on her head against the window, occasionally looking outside at the people. There was a slight nip in the air, and so Indu kept the window shut. Tonelessly, Natty began singing तेरा मुझसे है बहलेगा ना तो कोई, and Indu listened quietly, noticing how he glanced at the rear view mirror frequently when she did not comment. His singing went from bad to worse, but Indu did not say anything to so he finally stopped, looking curiously at her. Seems like you have finally learned to appreciate my singing, Indu madam, Natty said, and Indu gave a slight laugh but still didn't say anything. After that, Natty felt quiet. When they arrived, Indu quietly got out of the car and went up to the Masterji boutique. As usual, there was rolls of fabric at the back of shop standing against each other. On the wall, there was a large calendar with a Ganeshji on it. Masterji words broke thoughts into Indu's thought. Some thanda, madam? Kempa, Sikanji? He was as short and hunched as ever. Bristles of white beard covering his face, a slab of sky blue chalk placed safely above his right ear. Madam. Indu shook her head slowly and he waited for her to talk, but when she did not, he imitated guilty. Your gloves are not ready yet, madam. He folded his head bent, waiting for Indu's disapproving sniffs. But when she did not say anything, he looked at quizzically. Just give me 2 more days, madam. In 2 days it will be done. Think of it as already done. How many times have I told you to be more efficient with your work than with your words, Masterji? Indu's own voice rang out to her. She knew what was going to happen next. Of course she did. Whose wedding is it, madam? Masterji asked her. Indu looked up at his face as if seeing it for the first time. My own, she replied, and barely heard his explanation and apologies, hardly listening as he promised the delivery of this blouse within the next 2 days. She placed her dupatta neatly on her shoulder and spotted Natty across the road as if one cue. She looked up at the building with a huge poster. It was not Rajesh Khanna and Sharmila Tagore this time, Indu realized with a jolt. It was a poster of Kabhi. The poster featured Amitabh Bachchan and Wahida Rahman, and Indu stared wistfully as if just her stare would change Amitabh Bachchan to Rajesh Khanna. She almost bumped into a man on a bicycle and heard nothing when he hurled in an insult at her. Sitting in the ambassador, she asked carefully, Natty, can you tell me about this movie Kabhi Kabhi? If Natty found her question odd, he did nothing to show that and only asked, what about this movie, madam? This movie? What happens in it? Do Vaidya Rahman and Amitabh Bachchan marry or what? Oh, Natty said, comprehension dawning on his face. Well, I am not sure you want to hear it, madam. It's a bit sad. I want to hear it. Well, what happens is, madam, Amitabh Bachchan and Vaidya Rahman have to marry each other, madam, because of family and whatnot. But they don't love each other. Many years later, they meet the people they once loved, and then some, but they should have married the people they loved. See, it only makes sense. Indu heard him but did not have anything more to say. Yes, you look like Vaidya Rahman, a voice rang out of in his Indu's ear. If the lights are off. Stop, 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 Natty. Indu yelled and he stopped the car with a jolt. Wait, did you mean the car or singing, madam? She ignored the question. Things were rather stiff. Supriya, auntie and Balwant uncle sat in the drawing room of their house while Indu parents made casual conversation. Amita flitted in and out of the room as the phone rang off her constantly. When Indu arrived, she was told that Rajat was arriving soon, so she went up to her room to get ready. Her sister joined her after a few minutes and smiled at Indu. It's done, she said, smiling. Seriously, Indu asked. Amita nodded. And you are sure? Amita nodded again and said, the papers will arrive soon. Indu nodded too and clutched the side of the table to steady her beating Indu heart. Would she remember this moment years later? Would she remember it as Amitabh Bachchan and Vaidya Rahman had done? Would she remember it with sadness and regret? Rajesh Khanna, her own words echoed in her ears, the original superstar. In a few minutes, Amita told her that Rajat had arrived and Indu brought him straight up to her room. Indu shut the door behind them and Rajat looked around, staring at the painting, the one of Indu with her jasmine in her hair. Nice painting, he commented, nodding at it. Indu shook her head and hugged him tightly. I am sorry to have dragged you into this mess. Really, I mean it. I know you did not ask for any of it. He nodded curtly, and she saw that he wore this expression, one of long suffering. She could not exactly blame him. Did you tell Roshan about Govind Bhai and Amita? The color suddenly drained from his face. Listen, Indu, I told you. I am sorry about what he did. We promised not to reveal each other's secret. You won't tell anyone that it was Roshan who burned number 7 and I, as in we won't reveal all that you have been doing with Rana and Fahad. But did you tell Roshan? Did you put the idea in his head to try to bring Govind Bhai, to manipulate him into thinking wrongly about Amita, to gather support, to have Govind Bhai with him when he arrived at number 7? Rajat shook his head vigorously. Of course not. Well, Roshan is a bit of manic. He gets overprotective sometimes. I did tell him about Govind in general, but I would never do this. Indu did not reply. Instead, sat on the edge of her bed, her head in her hands. What is it, Indu? It's all over. Everything will be fine now. We are moving. She shook her head as she cried some more, and now his eyes widened. He took a step forward. She shook her head some more and he took another step forward. Indu, what are you saying? We can go. Indu can't. She told him tearfully. I just can't. I don't want to. I can't. He stopped where he was now. Are you saying you don't want to marry me? Now Indu nodded and a wave of relief washed over her as she finally said it, as if all of her being wanted only to assert that one thing. He opened and closed his mouth several times, taking a step back, and finally sat down on the edge of her bed. I am sorry, Indu said in a small voice, but he did not seem to hear it. Indu shook her head again, rushing to explain. I don't know you. We have nothing in common. How can I imagine spending a lifetime with you? I know I have been unfair and a horrible person to you, but don't you see? It's not enough. The situation of two people are not enough to determine if they should be married. If they can be together, everything is perfect. You will have a beautiful home in a new city, lovely parents, and you are a nice person, I'm sure, but I feel nothing for you. Marriage has to be more than that. It has to be more than us fitting together on this outside. Look at what happened to my sister. You know it now. What with your brother and her husband joining leagues? Have you seen her wedding picture though? Wait, I'll show you. Indu ran to herself and took the wedding picture of Amita and Govind, so beautiful and so widely distributed. She took the frame and thrust in it his bewildered hands. Look at them. Don't they look perfect? Can you tell that they would be divorced in a few years? Do you see the lie? He stared at it because she asked him to, and then shook his head. It does not have to be like that. I don't want to take that chance. Putting the frame on the bed, he got up and walked away while Indu followed him. She felt sorry for everything but weak with relief at some time. Let's go. She heard Rajat call out of the Balwant uncle and Supriya auntie, but when he walked straight out of the house without saying anything, his parents looked at Indu accusingly. All four of them sat down again. The reality of what had happened hitting them. None of them spoke for some time until Indu's mother asked, "What will you do now?" Father said, "We will see if number 7 can be restored," she said. "We will," he replied. "We will also look into other things. But you want to study, work, there is so much to do." Indu sat all afternoon ruminating about her decision, looking back on the few last days. Nothing seemed to make sense. All her life, Indu had revered a reader. That reader had caused a crisis, the end of which Indu could not see. Indu's encounter with the resistance to this leader had been as unfavorable. It did not seem to care of an individual life if the greater goal could be achieved, and then those the whom she would have been bound by marriage had not turned out any better than others. Now her father was openly against the party's policy, and that divided everyone into two camps, those who were afraid of saying anything and those who had already acted. For the first time ever, he and Sasi uncle were on opposite sides, while a lot of it had to do with Amit and Govind's troubling marriage. With their ideological difference had also become too wide. Yet she could not stop thinking about Amita and how she was a doctor now, and come what may, would forever be a doctor. That was the strength of being something. It did not matter whether Govind Bhai was in her life or not. There was nobody in the world who could make this away from her, and despite her parents' initial hesitation about her wishes, there was no one who boasted about it more. No one was who was prouder. They were already talking about setting up a clinic for Amita in the next few years. More than anything else, Indu decided that was what she wanted. "Indu, there is someone waiting for you outside," her father said, standing in the door to her room, interrupting her revive, while her mother laughed, standing next to him. She looked up. "Who?" "Rana," her father said. When she did not reply, her father continued, "We had a chit chat this morning." "About what?" "He was seeking advice. He said he had been offered a job at this particular firm, and he wanted to check the political leanings of this place." Rana had gone to speak to her father that morning and had not even informed her. Classic Rana, she muffed to herself that they had not met since parting that night after the fire, and here he was, already making new plans for himself. The ambassador's honk sounded as she made her way outside. Rana stood beside Nettie in front of the car, and when she appeared, walked into the garden towards her, holding his hands behind his back. He had recently cut his hair and wore a white shirt, his teeth matching the color as he grinned. He held out his palm to Indu, and a couple of white jasmines lay on it. "I remember what you had said once," Indu said, looking at him. "It's just flowers, you said. You had said, it's not my love." Rana laughed at that, but Indu did not let it go. "You mean it then?" "What I mean was, it's only flowers, nothing as special as my love." "I hope so," Indu said. "Or, you know what? What? I crush the flowers." "You never crush my love." "It could with some crushing, to be honest." He held her other hands, with one without the flowers in both of his. "What if there is Runjun again?" "She will pale in front of your fury and the emergency." His face darkened. "I know, but I will never leave you again, no matter what. In fact, I told your father some of my plans." "What plans? And why didn't you tell me you went to speak to him?" "Ford was upset about the photographs," Rana said, "but then our talk with your dad cheered us up." "What talk?" "Of course, what would be great, the cherry on the cake, is if you could have Ford meet Geeta." "What are you talking about, Rana? We have exciting things to look forward to," he said. "But first, we need to watch a movie. Natty, shall we?" Natty gave a deep bow. "There is no Rajesh Khanna movie, sir." "And Madam only watches Rajesh Khanna movies." Rana laughed. "Madam will still be watching Rajesh Khanna, Natty. I am going with her." When Indu gave her Rana an indignant look, he put his hands in defense. "I told you I am as close to Rajesh Khanna as you will ever get." सो गाइस, यहाँ पे हमारी बुक ख़त्म हो गई है। और अगर अगर क्या ये कैसी बुक लगी, आप प्लीज़ कमेंट करके बताएं। मुझे ठीक लगी, मतलब हाँ ठीक है, बट ललन स्वीट्स मुझे इससे ज़्यादा अच्छी लगी थी, बिकॉज उसमें थोड़ा ही एडवेंचर थे। इसमें भी एडवेंचर थे, बट नॉट फॉर एडवेंचर। थोड़ी सी जो इनका लव का था, कुछ था, वो थोड़ा सा और इनको करना था, बट ठीक है। ललन स्वीट्स से ज़्यादा किया इन्होंने, बट ललन स्वीट्स ने जो जगह ले ली है मेरे दिल में बुक्स ललन स्वीट जो थी, वो मुझे ज़्यादा बेटर लगी इससे। बट दोनों बुक बहुत अच्छी है। तो मिलते हैं आपसे नेक्स्ट वीडियो में नई बुक के साथ। थैंक्स फॉर वॉचिंग एंड डोंट फॉरगेट टू लाइक शेयर एंड कमेंट।